Welcome to the Samson Strength Coach Collective. On today's episode, we have Ryan Berry, a graduate assistant with Florida Atlantic University. During the episode, we discussed a bunch of different things. And what's always cool about talking with GAs is hearing about initial success stories, what they're focusing on, what they want to work on, what was something that they've learned during their GA opportunity, because every year you get one more year removed from your GA, right? And I always think it's great to hear their stories and hear what younger strength coaches are looking at and what they want to focus on. So we discussed all those things. Was a failure he had? Was the success he had? All these fun things that come with being a GA. And then what do you want to keep working on? What do you want to do when you graduate from your graduate assistantship? So these are conversations always super fun for me. Ryan was great to get to know. I think you as a listener will feel the same. And as always, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy. What's going on, Samson Strength Coach Collective listeners? On today's episode, we have Ryan Berry. He's coming to us from Florida Atlantic University, FAU. He is now the third FAU strength and conditioning member that I've interviewed. We talked about there's one more I got to get to, and then we finally completed the entire set. It's like Thanos and the Infinity Stones, right? But thank you so much for coming on, Ryan. I appreciate you greatly, man.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you for having me. And dude, that's what I'm saying. You got to get Carson on, have the whole squad.
Carson's next. And then we're going to do one big episode with everybody.
That would be awesome.
I mean, I can tell you, I wanted to interview you just based off my conversations with Zane and Ty. Those are really high-level coaches. And obviously they picked you to be a high-level graduate assistant. So I'm excited to kind of dive into it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely, brother. Well, please just give me a brief, let me be polite here. Please give me a brief background of your career, and then what's brought you to FAU?
Yeah, so here at FAU, I oversee indoor volleyball, men's soccer, men's and women's tennis, and swim. Prior to that, I came from Mount St. Mary's as a part-time assistant, and then I also worked in the private sector out there as a part-time assistant. And then actually, my old boss, strength coach, he was also Ty's old boss. So that's kind of how we got the connection. And they got in contact. They were looking for a GA, and then it kind of just worked out. And I got to move out here.
That's awesome. We're at Mount St. Mary's, or?
Yeah, Mount St. Mary's in Emmitsburg, Maryland.
Okay, very nice. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Maryland too, so it kind of worked out.
Zane loves to recruit those Northeastern guys, man.
Yeah, we're the best. I mean,
exactly.
Can't get away from us.
I'm from Syracuse, New York myself. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I think Zane's got a 315 number. I couldn't remember what Ty's. Ty was 585, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, all the Northeastern guys bringing it down to Boca Raton, Florida. That's quite the meetup spot.
Yeah, now we had to show them what's up. We had to show them.
Awesome, brother. Well, I mean, look, especially as a GA, what just always interests me is about, one, having your previous experience as a part-time coach, but then two, the GA is the time where you learn the most. Like, people always talk about, school, which is obviously, something that does help teach you a lot. And I like to glance over school a little bit because I was a terrible student. But at the same time, I feel like the GA was kind of like drinking through a fire hose. Like, what are your goals of this GA experience? And especially with having a little bit of part-time experience previously, like, what do you want to get out of being a GA? And what to you would mean you had a successful graduate assistantship at Florida Atlantic?
Yeah, I think coming into it when I first started, this is actually my last semester. Coming into it, I really just wanted to learn as much as I can. Seeing different coaches like Zane, Ty, previously when we had Jasmine, learn from her. But now we have Carson, so just learning from her, and then meeting as many other coaches too as possible, other than just here, but like football side, and then trying to see if I can go out to other schools and just meet, see, talk, and then just make relationships with my athletes and sports coaches. I think that so far has been like the best thing that has really made my day, is just making those relationships with the athletes and sports coaches.
Well, that's the best part of the job by far. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you could hate admin, whatever, it doesn't matter, but you can love your athletes and it's way more fun. What were the struggles that you had? Because maybe I'm projecting here a little bit, right? I had struggles relating to the athletes sometimes a little bit where,
Mhm.
especially as a non-basketball player working in basketball, like I didn't know how their bodies felt sometimes. I didn't really
Mhm.
understand what common knowledge was, right? Or like what drills are. And you can tell Zane this joke, right? We'll talk about, 5-on-5 shell. I thought we were talking about turtles, right? I had no clue about some of this stuff. So, like, what were some of the struggles that you originally faced in building those relationships, and how did it get better over time?
Yeah, I think being introduced to the new sports that I haven't had before was trying to find, I guess, their why and how I can explain myself to them and why I want them to do something. Um, and once I kind of figured that out, uh, sorry about that. Something popped up on my computer. But yeah, once I figured that out, it kind of helped build that relationship and their trust with me a little bit better.
Mm. And so you speak about trust. I think trust is one of the most important things. Like, what are the things that you really try to do to build trust within your athletes?
I think get to know them on a personal level other than just in the weight room. Try to make as many times out to practice, to games, and everything along those lines. Because I don't want to just be stuck in the weight room all the time, and them just look at me as the meathead that's stuck in the weight room and everything like that. But going out there, getting to know them on a personal level, what they like to do, but not nothing like crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. I understand. And I think, again, the trust building process it takes a while, but once you've learned how to kind of get the athletes to trust in you, it's something that makes your relationship way better. And honestly, what's so cool about a GA is you have to learn how to do it within 2 years, right? Like it's your
Oh
last
yeah.
semester, you have to learn quickly.
Uh huh.
But now with the transfer portal, like it's gonna be the same for full time coaches as well too. I have to get these coaches or these athletes to trust in me when maybe we have 8 months together. Right? We had somebody who. Jackson, one of our players, had his previous strength coach was a good friend of Zane's, Pat Lewis, who's an incredibly high level
Mm.
coach, and I had to say, hey man, I'll probably do stuff different from Pat, but I promise you, I still have your best interest at heart. And developing that trust it's a great experience because it just makes your relationships just that much better with your athletes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, obviously you are going into your last semester. Like, what do you feel like are the most important lessons that you've learned across your time as a GA?
I think especially when it comes to like people that have been in the field a lot longer than me, listen more than I talk.
Uh,
When they're talking, just kind of sit there and just absorb everything, whether it's like even about programming or anything like that. Just like how they talk to like maybe their sport coach, how they talk to their athlete, and how do they kind of talk to each other, other coworkers, and it's really absorbing all of that and taking that and making it into myself.
hmm. What was the catalyst for that? How did you learn that?
I don't. I think my father he always kind of told me just listen, like not in like and I have a military background. My dad was military, and same with my older brothers. So that was just kind of what you did in our family, and I don't know, it just kind of always stuck with me. And I felt like I always learned a lot more just by keeping quiet and not in the aspect where I don't talk, but keeping quiet, learn from them, and then make it myself.
Yeah, 100%. And I love to talk. Obviously, I decided to host a podcast, right? Or else I wouldn't be doing this. But at the same time, I think, like you mentioned, if you can learn how to be more of an observer, and if you can learn to listen to what people are really saying too, right? I think that's a skill in itself, is understanding somebody may be saying something, but they kind of mean something else, right? But if
Hmm.
you're not really listening, you're not really 100% picking up on it.
Hmm.
I think those things are valuable skills, and they can certainly translate into success with your athletes, especially like you said on the relationship development side. Um, I like hearing about successes, right? I like hearing about,
Hmm.
fun and feel good type of things. And don't worry, I'm going to ask you about the bad stuff later too. But in the meantime, like, what's a favorite success story of yours, especially across your time at FAU?
Yeah, I think honestly, from when I first got here, I think maybe it was even from what I made in my relationship back at my Mount St. Mary's. having former baseball players of mine reach out, like they've graduated, they reach out and they just send me a text. And just knowing that I built that relationship there, that they want to reach out, see how I'm doing. I get to see how they're doing and everything like that. And then even here too, some of my graduates, they do the same thing. Just knowing I at least made something in their life to where I've made that connection.
Mm. Okay, so let me ask you more of a philosophical question, right, or more of a larger view question. Like those people reach out to you, and you know you made an impact. What would you want people to say about you as a coach if they were going to talk to somebody completely, objective, somebody that had never met you before, and they said, "Well, Ryan did this for me as a coach, and I feel like it really helped me."
I think that I look out for them and I want the best for them.
Mm,
I would never do I wouldn't do anything spiteful against them, but I want them to be the best, whether it's sport, school, or just a person in general.
okay, and so when you say spiteful, like what is I guess I may be projecting again here too, right? And this is why I love talking with GAs, right? Because like there's fears of mine in strength and conditioning. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you a very specific example of mine, right? Uh, I had an internship, and we talked about where I was previously right before the show, right? When I first
Mhm.
started, and I went there, and I remember I put my foot up on an assault bike during a 3-hour practice, right? And then I put my foot up there and I rested on the assault bike for just a little bit, right? And nothing was said at the time. And then we went into our head strength coach's office afterwards, and he cussed me out like you wouldn't believe. Like I can't believe how disrespectful you were out there. You made the program look terrible. This was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, and I literally just was leaning on an assault bike, right? And so I remember when that happened, I kind of vowed to myself that I would never be a coach like that, right? I'd never be
Mhm.
somebody who would really just degrade somebody. And so my interns now, if somebody leans on a assault bike, I couldn't care less, right? And it kind of makes me happy when I see them do it because I'm like, yeah, I'm not that guy. Like, and so when you say something about spiteful, right, and you looking out for people, like, was there an experience you had in the past, or has it just been things that you've seen within strength and conditioning that you're just trying to model yourself after for better, or to try to avoid being on the kind of worse end, if that makes sense?
I think maybe that I've seen. I've never really. I wouldn't say anybody I've worked for has ever been like that.
Yeah,
But I also like the idea of kind of finding maybe which athletes like that a little bit too.
yeah,
You can be like, push the button a little bit, see which
yeah,
way I can get them, and then and maybe that's their why, and like that pushes them. I love that.
yeah.
That's just so much fun to me.
Oh, so you like pushing buttons a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit, but I gotta find the right people for it. Because then when you can just see it, when you see that come out of them, you're like, oh, here
Yeah.
it goes.
Well, it's next level training,
Yeah,
and they get excited, right? And I think it is fun, like to be, a kind of a jerk sometimes. Some people, like we've got a player I know who has terrible balance, right? And I like to make fun of his balance, but we're working on it on the side, and he does it because I like making fun of him, and he knows that it's something he's got to work on, but we can build a good relationship that way.
yeah,
Yeah, and if I know you said it's not for anybody you work for, but if Zane's abusing you, just blink twice, okay? Then we'll save you
yeah.
from FAU.
I'll wait till the camera's off to tell you that
Yeah,
one.
good, good. I'll call you immediately after. Okay, so we talked about the successes, right? It's like the feel good stuff, but like, what's a mistake you've made, and how did you learn from it within your time? Let's say either at FAU or Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah, I think. Let's see. I think two of them do actually come to mind pretty quickly when I think about it. I think first is names. I think names is like one of like I'm terrible at remembering names and faces and everything like that. I've always struggled with that. So I've tried to find ways to kind of help. And this semester, I really tried to make sure I can get this down. So whatever their card is, I make them hand it to me. I'll read their card, look at their face, and I'll do that for the first 2 weeks. I mean, honestly, even 3 or 4 weeks until I can get it reeled down. But that has helped me a little bit catch on a little bit quicker. But that is definitely one of them. And then probably the second one is just too much volume. Just at least from a pro, always giving too much volume. I noticed that real quickly.
Okay, so I've got a funny story for you on the names one, and I think you can probably relate to this, right? So my first day here at App State, I'm not very good with names either. I'm very bad memorizing them. And we had a testing day, like one of the first or second days that I was here. Coach wanted to get done immediately. And so I had all their names on a sheet. I didn't have any of their profiles or anything, right? And I didn't want to ask them because for some reason on my first day, I was like, "Oh, I'm great with names." Like I literally said that out loud. Like it was the dumbest thing I've ever said. I was like, "I'll remember everybody's name." And so then day 2, we're doing testing. The Tyree Boykin comes up, and I'm like, I think that's Terrence, right? And so I write down every single one of Terrence's numbers for vertical jump and everything like that. And then I like look back over my numbers later, and I'm like, 6 of these people are completely wrong. Like, there's no way our post player has a 38-inch vertical. And I've seen him jump; he can barely fit a credit card underneath when he jumps. So, like, I think the names aspect is very, very important to learn about. What we, I always say, bring up a mistake. What you learn from it, why did it become important to you to learn the names quickly? Was there a specific instance, or was it just something where you recognized like the relationship development aspect is going to be easier if I can say their name?
I think the relationship part, but then there's sometimes I thought I was so, like you said, you're so confident in knowing the names. I would yell the name out, and they'd be like looking at me like I'm a little crazy, and I'm yelling the completely wrong name, and I'm like, man, I really got to get these down. But like just seeing them kind of like look at me and be like, who are you even talking to?
Yeah.
But then just building the relationship, them knowing that I can at least know that pretty quickly. And just getting an athlete's attention across the room a lot quicker.
Oh, 100%, right? It's a lot easier when they know your name versus,
Yeah,
hey,
instead of
buddy.
waving
Yeah.
and everything like that.
Awesome. Well, okay. And so you mentioned the too much volume. I think that's a mistake everybody makes, right? It's whether being too much and then all of a sudden you go too little because you're worried about being too much volume, right? And it's almost like the homeostatic curve. I always like to compare it to, right? You go too high,
Mm-hmm.
too low, and then everything eventually balances out at the end. What was the understanding with too much volume? What was the instance that made you realize maybe this might be too much? And then how did you kind of correct it from there?
I think seeing the fatigue pop up in the weight room, like they didn't have like the pop in their voice, the way they walked in, and then when going out to practice, you kind of seeing them drag. Numbers started to stay stagnant. I dropped volume for a little bit, kind of did the brief deload, helped a little bit, but just kind of I tried to find the middle ground for them, especially in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Were they complaining about being sore a ton?
No, actually. No. Some of them were just
group.
head down, let's go. And I'm like, maybe I overdid it a little bit.
Well, it's a mistake that everybody's made. I promise you that. I mean, and it's never going to stop, right? And it's funny. I was even talking to another basketball strength coach previously about just programming in season and just being terrified of giving them too much to recover from, but then also giving them too little that we're not actually maintaining our strength and we're not getting better. So it's a continual mistake. So I promise you, you're not alone in that one. And it'll happen to me again. I promise you that. And on whether it's too much or too little on my side. And so you have, how many teams do you have total?
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah,
wow.
5.
How do you balance all that? That's a lot of names.
Yeah, I know. A lot of sheets, a lot of rereading over and over again. But honestly, just kind of rolling with the punches. I actually initially came here, only had men's and women's tennis and soccer. I started building trust with Zane and Ty, and I was given more responsibility. And I started picking up, I think I picked up swim first. And then this last fall, I picked up indoor volleyball. But building their trust and then just kind of doing what I can, rolling with the punches.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, that's a lot of names, but it's a lot of various sports as well, too. Who did you rely on to help you with understanding how to program for these different sports and, how to actually manage having 5 full teams?
Yeah, I think I would talk with Zane, I would talk with Ty and kind of what should I do here? What should I not do in that aspect? And then reaching out to my old mentors too, Travis Scott from Mount St. Mary's or Mike Snowden, and just kind of seeing what they did when they had some of these teams and going from there.
Yeah. What was the best advice you got within that, within those talks?
Don't overthink it.
Okay.
Don't overthink it.
That's awesome. That's great advice. I mean, if I could only follow that, then I'd be in a great spot. It's tough to follow.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just be, the mind's just going. And they're just like, man, it'll be okay. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're right.
Don't overthink it. Okay. And so, I mean, obviously that's the best advice you got within that scenario. What's the best advice you've received as a whole throughout your career, whether it is from your father or whether it is from Zane or Ty or anybody you've worked with?
I think learn as much as you can, meet as many people as you can. And those two have stuck with me. Oh, and make relationships with your athletes.
Yeah.
If I could, those three have just like been my foundation since I've learned them. Like if I didn't have those, I don't think I'd still be here.
That's awesome. And so, like, obviously, relationship development is important for you. It's important for me. Like, what have you seen relationship development do with your program, and especially just the first couple of weeks versus the next 6 months that you have after you've been able to develop strong relationships with your team?
I think it's more of the head down. I do what you say, like type of aspect. Like you could tell me to jump off this cliff and I'll do it type deal.
Yeah.
Once I built that trust, it was like, I'll do what you say type deal. Even if I like I said, maybe like the volume, I may have went too high or something like that. They'd be like, okay, let's do it. No matter what,
Yeah.
no matter how they felt.
Yeah. Well, like you said, they didn't complain about being sore and they were happy to be there, which is always a very good indicator.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've gotten certainly some feedback from athletes that they weren't happy with my workouts before. So maybe your relationship development is a little bit better than mine. Which is good.
Nah, I wouldn't say that. I'm just starting.
Well, okay. I mean, so you mentioned just starting. Like, what's the ultimate goal for you? What would be, if I could say, here's the dream job for Ryan Berry, what would your goal be?
I think I would also like to get into basketball.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing I really want to get into. I really like the energy of basketball, like, and that aspect, and just being around the guys, like, and everything like that. Just that atmosphere is just so much fun to me.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then it can suck too. To be candid with you, when you're losing, sometimes it sucks. But when you're winning, it's a ton of fun.
Just yet.
Well, I'm going to be open with you about everything. That's the only way that this is fair. But I mean, basketball it's a fantastic choice in my opinion. I think it's the best choice. Obviously, that's the reason I picked it. But there's certainly ups and downs with it. There's positives and negatives. Like I said, when you're losing, it sucks and you feel it. But the best part about basketball is that it's not like football where you play one game per week, right? You get to go play a game immediately afterwards. And we play the Sun Belt Thursday and Saturdays. And I mean, I couldn't be more grateful for that because you lose on a Thursday, all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, let's
bounce
just get back
right there
on Saturday. Yeah, immediately afterwards. Were you with the team or were you, with Florida Atlantic when they went for the Final Four run?
No, I got here just after that.
Yeah.
I got here just after that, and I worked with them, I think, the following year. And then I got to work with basketball at Mount St. Mary's too.
That's awesome.
And so being around them, I was like, man, this is it. What
draws you to basketball? The energy, or is there anything else you feel? Or
I think it's the energy, more or less than anything. Them wanting to get after it and then seeing them play. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool, man. You get to see some really cool stuff, right? Like we had a guy who came in at 285 pounds. He was recruited to be a football player. Now, if you ask him, he'll tell you he was supposed to be the best defensive end in this country, but he was already 285 pounds. He's a pretty athletic dude. I was like, they were going to put 50 pounds on you and you were going to be a left tackle, just so you're aware. Like they were lying to you. Okay. But he came in and he lost 55 pounds. He's 250 now, and watching him dunk for the first time and, in game, obviously he could dunk before, but watching him dunk for the first time in game and watching his redshirt year pay off, like that was a really, really special moment. It's very cool. So I think I'm biased. I think basketball is a great choice, and Zane would probably tell you the same thing too. Unless Ty tries to recruit you to the baseball end.
Oh yeah, he's definitely tried. And I've actually played baseball in college and growing up and everything like that, but I don't know. There's just something about being around basketball. It's different.
Yeah. Where did you play baseball?
I played baseball at IUP in Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I know IUP.
Oh yeah, a little PSAC.
Oh yeah. What position were you?
I was a pitcher.
The pitcher. Okay, very nice, man. That's awesome.
A little right-handed pitcher.
And so, what was your experience? Did you have a strength and conditioning coach as a baseball player?
It was a little weird. I actually went JUCO first. I
Okay.
played. I was actually there for 4 years. I was in like a weird. I was in during that COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
I got hurt 1 year, so I ended up staying for four, and then I transferred there. We didn't have one in junior college, and then when I got there, we had one. I think my last semester.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I never really had one.
Wow. I mean, and that's got to be tough, right? To be going from being a player and never having a strength coach to all of a sudden being on the opposite side and leading the lifting. Like, what is your experience as a player? How has it helped you as a strength coach, do you think?
I think understanding like the task at hand, kind of like what you're there to do and what I'm there to do, what the players should be there to do. Um, Being able to make those relationships with the athletes and the sports coaches, um, and just generally just getting
Yeah.
them to love lifting.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the sport coaches too. Like what has been a success story for you from working with sport coaches? Like how have you grown in your relationships with sport coaches as well? Because obviously that's a really big piece of strength and conditioning as a whole.
Yeah, I think them trusting me and like just hey, I trust you. You go do it.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to ask many questions. I believe in you, and I think that's like wow. Like you trust me with that. Like let's go. I'm ready to
Yeah.
go.
Can you give me a specific instance, anything that you can think of that you got
Yeah,
trusted with for the first time?
yeah. So specifically indoor volleyball. I mean, taking them over right at the start of in season. Um, our head coach was like, optimistic. It's a GA taking over. She comes in for the first time. She sees me lead the girls just through the warm up. She was like, "Nope, I'm in good hands. I'm in good hands
Awesome.
just from that." And then kind of seeing the way I talk to the girls and everything like that. Like, hey, uh, I'm good.
Wow, that's great. You must make quite the impression.
I tried. I tried.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, just because I know these guys, right? And I think they're awesome. Like, what has Ty taught you during your time? Like, what's the number one thing that you can take from your time at FAU and say, Ty Curtis taught me this, and it's something I'm going to take with me for the rest of my career?
I think Ty's taught me like coaching, like um, how to like use your voice and everything and how to go about like using it to get what you like, not what you want, but what you need to get done.
Mm,
Um, with him coming from working under Travis too, um, they're both relatively the same. And then just having that reinforcement, because that was definitely one thing coming in as a GA, I definitely struggled with. I didn't have that oomph in my voice to kind
mm.
of get what we needed to get done. Just having that there and hearing how he did it every session with 40, 50 baseball guys and like controlling the room, that really helped me use that when I have my teams now.
Mm. I mean, that's a very valuable skill. It's
Yeah,
invaluable, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and the way he leads it too, like, and whether it was Travis or whether it was Ty, and just like the way they say it to get everybody together, listen, like, let's go. Like, I can't change it. Like, I'm super happy to be a part of that and be around. I was able to be around that.
That's awesome. And it's always great to take specific skills from your mentors as well, too, right? Like to being able to learn things specifically from them. I think the biggest thing I ever took was from Craig Fitzgerald at Tennessee when I was with football was how to have fun. Like because he's like one of the best strength coaches in college football you can possibly get, man. And I remember working with him, and I was like, "This is we're at Tennessee. It's like one of the most esteemed programs. Like the stakes are high, And
Hmm.
he just never stopped having fun every day. I remember he kicked over a chalk bowl. He would this may be kind of a weird example to give everybody, right? But like one time we were in a meeting and we were all meeting there, and he's like, "Everybody take your shirts off." So when the guy comes back in, he has no clue what's going on. Like it's just weird stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it makes your job way more fun, and it's great to take those things from your mentors. So, okay, well then now I'm going to put you on the spot with Zane. What is the number one thing that you've taken from Zane at your time with him?
I think it's movement over everything.
Mm,
Teaching full range to whether it's a squat, hamstrings touching calves, everything full range. Slow it down what you need to with tempo. and then start adding your weight. Make it look good before you just, hey, let's put a ton of weight on. I think
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest thing, and that's actually helped like all of my athletes either perform better or just everything just looks so clean in the weight room when you do it. Once
Yeah.
he taught me that.
He's spoken like a true Preston Green disciple. Has he brought up Preston a lot with you?
No, just 450 times. I've been
Yeah.
keeping tally.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a reason that system works, and there's a reason Preston's been very successful as a strength coach, because those things matter. They influence the quality of your program, and it's just amazing. I'm glad you're able to take things, and I'm glad you're able to experience those things from your GA position. So when you look ahead, obviously basketball is kind of the goal. Like, what do you want to continue to learn? What are the things that you want to continue to work on? What do you feel like you may need to know within your first couple of years as a full-time strength coach?
I think continuing to learn, I guess, more just from the program perspective and how to fluctuate stuff in the long scheme of things. Maybe when I get to basketball, out of season, in season, even more, especially if I had them on my own instead of just kind of seeing what everybody else does. Those definitely the biggest things. And yeah, as of right now.
Well, if I could give you some unsolicited advice on the programming
No, I'll take it.
aspect.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. The number one thing I always hear is people want to improve programming when they first start out, which I think you should spend your time on that, because it does take a long time to learn. But don't pressure yourself more than anything into believing it's the end all be all for your program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm biased. I'm not a very good programmer, right? So I'm going to hang my hat on the relationship development aspect and worrying about if my guys are bought into the weight room. But at the same time, almost every program works, right? And what people do, you're going to get stronger. Now, will some make you a little bit stronger more efficiently? Then yes, will some help you be quicker, and all those things do matter, yes. But at the same time, like, always worry about the relationship development aspect, which you've already done, which I don't even know you, but I'm proud of you for doing that to start off with. But always focus on those things, because it makes the biggest difference in the end. Somebody can have the best program in the world. If your players don't care and they don't want to be there, you could end up having the worst program in the world, because nobody's actually getting it done how it needs to be done.
Yeah. So what have you done to like help with that
relationship development?
Yeah.
Oh, made an ass of myself, and made a fool, and been bad, and then learning how to be better. I think the biggest thing is if you could look at is the self-determination theory, which I've mentioned many times on the podcast before. There's a solo podcast I've done on it, but I think that really helps me understand the motivation for athletes, and it helps me understand exactly how to improve their motivation quality. So it's simple. It just says motivation is not a quantity, it's a quality. It's not about how much you have, but how high quality motivation you do have. So understanding that's been really useful. And then I think you brought up a really good point earlier too, of understanding that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter wins or losses. The athletes just need to know that you're there for them, and that you care about them. And so when I started asking questions like, do you have brothers and sisters, right? Like, those are very simple and easy ways to get there. But then what a lot of coaches will do is they'll ask those things, but then they never really follow up on them, right? They'll never ask again, like, oh, how's your brother doing? Or I'll give you an example. We have a player right now who's injured, and he's with me on the sideline. He's got a crazy family. Like, I love him, and I don't even know him. His brother is a DJ who tours across Europe because he's from Switzerland, right? And so I'm like, how's your brother's tour going? What? I followed his brother on Instagram. His brother messaged him. It was like, your strength coach is weird for that, but it's allowed us to have a lot more conversations and get to know each other on a really personal basis. Yeah. I asked about his little brother. How's basketball going? Because it was his first season. Is he any good? Like, do you think, he's going to be better than you? And so, like, small questions like that, and really remembering those things and following up on those things. That'd be my advice from the relationship development aspect. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's awesome. And you said it was I actually haven't had a chance to listen to that podcast. It was self-determination theory.
Self-determination theory. I think that one cracked the code on how to motivate your athletes beyond belief. It talks about autonomy, relatedness, and competency are the three kind of main areas. And so, like I said, I'm not the best programmer, but I at least can quote some sports psych theories that can help support what I try to say at the end of the day.
I'm definitely going to be taking a listen to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you taking a listen. All right. And so let me ask you this. I like asking the fun questions as well too, and just finding out the fun stuff. Are you a pre-workout guy? Have you, as a young strength coach, picked your specific pre-workout or your specific energy drink?
Um, I've converted a little bit. I used to be a rain guy.
Okay.
I've now converted to Ghost, and I
As
can
all
take
young
that.
bucks do, they switch from rain to ghost.
I can take that from Ty and Zane. They've
Okay.
converted me. Ghost and C4s,
Yep.
and then probably going to, because I'll be honest, I probably just drink those during the day, not even before I work out.
Yeah.
And then just a non-stem.
Yep. There you go.
Feeling the
Look,
beta alanine just like crawl through my forehead, that gets me going enough.
you're a mature young man. I'm very proud of you. Seriously, the Reigns are where everybody starts, but Ghosts are for the distinguished gentlemen. What's your favorite flavor of Ghost?
Ty's gonna hate to hear this. He's gonna hate it. Actually, so same with Zane. Tropical mango.
Tropical mango.
That one
That's
is
a good
so
one. That's a
good.
good one. That's a good one. What are their favorites? Why would they disagree?
Zane or Ty likes the red lemonade one. I can't remember the
Okay.
exact name of that. And then I believe Zane likes the same thing.
The cherry, I think it's cherry limeade.
Yeah, cherry limeade. There you go.
I'm a little too in deep on the ghosts. I'm
What's
very
yours?
aware. Grape, the Welch's grape
Grape.
that they
Oh, the
have
new
is,
grape one.
yeah, it's out of
That
control.
one's
I
good.
mean, it's the
That
best
one's
one they've
good.
had. But I went to GNC, and this is another. If I could give you small advice, go to Black Friday or GNC right after Black Friday, because they're always going to have some crazy sale on energy drinks. And they had, and I just talked 2 weeks ago about how I should give up the caffeine addiction piece, right? But they had Ghost for $1, so I bought 50 of them because I was like, "This is the
Oh,
best deal
that's
I'm
a
ever going to get."
steal.
Yeah. So tropical mango was 15 of them. So I do like tropical mango. I shouldn't
Yeah, see,
rag on you too much for liking it.
Have you tried actually, I can't even remember if it's C4, if it's Ghost off the top of my head, the green apple, Jolly
Uh,
Rancher?
yep, that's C4, and
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Yep, absolutely.
so good.
Now, what I love about the C4 is definitely the skin crawling. That's always
Yes.
fun. Yeah, and it cracks me up because I never do it as pre-workout. Like that's like sometimes how I just prefer to start my day. Is I'm like, man, I feel jazzed up for the
Wow.
day after a C4.
I'm gonna have to try that one.
Oh
I like
yeah,
to sprinkle a little bit of extra beta alanine in mine too. That might be why I'm a little
you're sick. You're
yeah,
sick. You're sick.
little
That's why.
little non-stem. Don't need the caffeine, but I'll take the extra beta alanine.
That's awesome. Well, you're going to be a great strength coach. I can tell you that just based
Thank
off
you.
of your supplement choices alone. Well, Ryan, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time. Seriously, I do appreciate you, and I'm excited to follow your career from here, especially if you go within basketball. I love to meet young coaches, and I'm a young coach myself, right? But who are interested in basketball and want to keep growing. I'm excited to stay in touch with you, man.
No, thank you for having me, Connor, and I would love to stay in touch and really pick your brain, even about some of the stuff you do too.
Oh, absolutely. I can't give you much, but hopefully I can give you something quality.
You definitely will.
If any of our listeners want to follow you on social media, what's your Instagram handle? What's the best way to follow you?
It is Berry BERRY .Ryan14.
Awesome. Was that your baseball number?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, there we
Totally
go.
forgot
Look
about
at
that.
that. I'm good at decoding Instagram usernames. But awesome. Well, Ryan, I really appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, Connor.
Absolutely.